discussing some of the research aptitude questions from your 2021 NET paper 1 various shift examinations. Now the first question here talks about two statements. The first is experimental effects are the errors which are introduced during the collection and the analysis of the experimental data due to the behavior of the experimenter. Definitely correct. Since there is an experimenter, the analysis, the collection can be flawed, and as a result there can be experimental defects. So this statement is definitely correct. Now the second is due to the presence of certain cues in experimental setting, the participants form an interpretation of the experiment's purpose and subconsciously change their behavior to fit that interpretation. That's again correct. So both the statements are correct here. Sometimes it so happens that they purposefully, knowingly, subconsciously change their interpretation because they know certain things which were part of the experiment, and therefore this biasness comes in, and this experimental effect is again this one of the error which is introduced because of the change in the behavior of the experimenter. So both the statements are correct statement. The next is, as a student matures, the study of social issues at community level, international level can be made available to them. This is through the jurisprudential inquiry. Role playing is simply I play the role of, let's say, I play the role of Einstein and I'm acting like an Einstein. So I get to know more about Einstein. Group investigation is all the people sit together, discuss the issue. Structured inquiry is where teacher establishes certain parameters on which the inquiry would be made. Jurisprudential inquiry is an inquiry where there is intense in-depth understanding on a certain issue. So there are certain skills, dialogues which are taken into account. Students are taken into consideration for the same thing. So we call this as jurisprudential inquiry. So 2 is the right answer here, right? So in this case, when students mature, the social issues take place. This is because of the jurisprudential inquiry. The next is, the major deficiency of a pre-experimental design is they don't provide comparison, because this is before the experiment, right? Pre-experimental design. Now, pre-experimental design is one of the simplest design. It either has just one group or multiple groups which are checked against the treatment, right? And therefore, equivalence can be achieved through matching and random assignment. So both is correct, and reason is the correct explanation for the same. In our detailed lectures on paper 1, we have covered it in more detail. So all the 3 experimental designs and their subtypes. So under pre-experimental, you have one short case study, one group pre-test, post-test. The same group is tested before and after, and so on and so forth. So in all of those, major deficiency is we do not provide a comparison group to the person. The next is, which of the following are violations of research ethics? Now, violation of research ethics, the person is violating the confidentiality. Definitely, if I am saying certain things are confidential, if you have taken an information from me and I say that this is a confidential information, you don't, as a researcher, you don't keep it confidential. You are violating it. That is violation of the research ethics. So that's correct. Making recommendations which are beyond the scope of data collected. So let's say I am collecting the data on literacy, but I am extending my scope and talking about the higher education networks in India and focusing on the results of higher education. So definitely that's beyond the scope of my study. I was meant to study only the literacy parameter. So again, that's a violation of research ethics. I'm not using an appropriate research design, and I am also changing the data to meet a desired outcome, right? So all of these would be violating the research design. But if I'm using one method in place of another, that's totally fine. That's not a violation of the research design, right? The next is, research in the field of science require more fund than social science and humanities. That's correct. So 1 is correct. Only in economical rich country, science of high quality is possible. Only word is there. Okay, that makes it incorrect, because in our country also we had done research on COVID vaccination. So then putting this word only, and there were numerous other nations as well who were at par with the developed nations. So only word, since it is there, this sentence become incorrect. So 1 is correct, assertion is correct, reason is not correct. The next is convergent validity is a validity where the assessment of the measurement validity of a measure, compare it to the measure of the same content which is generated by a different method. So when we have done a detailed lecture on validity, we have talked about different types of validity, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to compare one validity with another kind of validity, and we are trying to see on what parameters they are actually converging. The next is doing interdisciplinary research is more challenging than within any single discipline. That's correct, because doing interdisciplinary research requires knowledge about various disciplines. Let's say I am including sociology, psychology, economics together. So I need to have knowledge about sociology, psychology, economics. It's not possible to combine knowledge. That's incorrect. I can definitely combine knowledge from different subjects. So A is correct, R is incorrect. So again, 3 is the correct option. The next is scientific research has an ultimate goal of explaining any phenomena by law of generalization. This means that if I say apple falls due to gravity, orange falls due to gravity, mango falls due to gravity, then I can generalize all the things which are hanging above would fall due to gravity. So it actually has a goal of explaining phenomena through law of generalization. If it is true for 1, if it is true for 2, if it is true for 3, that means it's true for most of the universe. And that's the basic logic that we try to explain. Coming on to true case studies. True case studies are those case studies where you usually select one case for in-depth analysis. So let's say I want to understand about paper mills. So I go to ABC paper mills and see how the production goes. So I'm just focusing on one paper mill, which is ABC paper mill. This is highly quantitative. I know all the depth accounting details and so on and so forth. The ingredients, where they are coming from, how much they are coming, what is the quantity of input, what is the quantity of output. So I have quantitative analysis. And at the same time, I am also trying to have a kind of very broad understanding. So it's easy to generalize the finding. That's incorrect, because if I'm saying this case study for ABC paper mills is this would apply to XYZ as well? No. The locality, the inputs for the XYZ could be very different. So it's easy to generalize? Definitely not. It integrates different perspectives. So in a case study, you can have various perspectives. There can be perspectives where I can say I am incorporating different segments, where I believe I can say, let's say planning is good. I can say I can have more of qualitative understanding, how the HR is functioning, how the economy of the company is, the economics of the company. I can talk about the social aspects of the company. I can integrate all those different perspectives together, right? So this is definitely making a sense. Adopts the most consequent approach to a particular. It's not exactly indicating what a true study is, true case study is. Now the last question here is match list. Now when I say match list, parameter is to population and static is to universe. As simple as that. So parameter, P for population. So it's a property of population. So that's correct. So D with 3 goes only in one option. So automatically your fourth option gets correct. But still, let's understand. Principle of parsimony is where we use the most preferable method. And the simplest method is usually the most preferable method. Triangulation. Triangulation is a property where we are talking about both quantitative and qualitative studies. And in isomorphism, we talk about similarity in the structure. So it's one-to-one mapping between two different sets, and we call it as isomorphism. So isomorphism, 4 is the correct answer. So here we have discussed some of the research questions. Now, All of these topics we have covered extensively in our paper 1 lecture courses, the video courses. So those are available at Doorstep Tutor. You can just check the links in the description below. Have a wonderful day ahead.